Hello, my name is Donavon. Welcome to registrationx.net. Thank you for tuning in to this video broadcast. I'd like to say Happy New Year to everybody out there, 2015. And I know everybody's got positive expectations of good for 2015, and I am no different, but I am a realist. And I've done a lot of research over the last year, and I wanted to bring you some of the findings that I have found, and they're not good, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, it's not. I'd rather have the truth than sunshine blown up my wazoo. So, you know, one of the things that I want to just kind of jump right in here. Why am I doing this? Why do I do this? Registration X, the whole deal. One, if in fact your situation occurred prior to the enactment of the registry, okay, then it is unconstitutional, irreprehensible. It is a travesty that you're subject to the registry laws. Period. There's no two ways about that. I don't care what the 7th District Court says, public safety crap. I don't even hear it. If the situation occurred before the registry was enacted, you shouldn't be subject to it. The next, kids. That's right. Adolescents who are subject to the registry, labeled for the rest of their lives, and become a burden to their families, the state, and everything else for doing, or especially here in the state of Florida, the criminalization, okay, of millions of years of evolution, okay, when it's encoded in their DNA. We're going to talk about that more in 2.5 seconds. The third thing is, when you do this to a kid, okay, you get me, right? A 44-year-old man who cannot support himself, who's struggling on a daily basis just to keep his head above water, okay? And let me tell you how bad it's gotten. The other day, a lot of times you go to your refrigerator and you open it up and there's food in there, right? It doesn't happen at my house. But luckily enough, this day I opened up the refrigerator and there were 2 hockey puck size pizza discs that I put into the microwave and cooked. My problem was I put them in this plastic bowl to eat, and I brought them into my office in the back of my desk in front of my computer, and I set it on the edge of the desk, and it tipped over and fell on the floor, right? So you imagine these 2 hot steaming pieces of pizza, they've fallen on the floor, and they fell upside down onto the floor. So I got to pick them up. The savings grace was there were 2 roach carcasses about 1.5 inches away, and I went, phew, at least it didn't hit the roach carcass. So as I picked the lint and dust off those things, I had to eat them anyway. You know why? Because that's all I had to eat. That's all I had to eat. So I had to pick it up off the floor. I think the roaches died of starvation, actually, to be honest with you. No, this is a very, very true story. I kid a little bit, but it's a true story. It's been a long time since I had to eat food off the floor to survive, right? And it's terrible. There is no justification for a lot of people out there to be labeled unsafe for society, okay? And there's a concerted effort out there to vilify a certain class of people because of fear and misinformation. Fear and misinformation. Okay, so we've said that everybody who's on the registry is a total menace to society and should watch out for them, and it's a total friggin' lie. We spend more money on this lie every year, and the budget for this gets bigger and bigger every year. Every year in October, they roll out new registration laws, and they pile more and more crap on that does not save, let me say it, 1 child. Not friggin' one, okay? So a couple of pet peeves that I've got going on, and we're going to get back to the adolescent thing, but I recently, and this is what kills me, Charles Manson, okay, Charlie Manson is just recently in the news again, right, again, with, he's marrying some 25-year-old girl while he's in prison. He's like 79 years old. And you know why? Let me tell you why. Because America loves 2 things: sex scandals and violence. They want it. They love these kids' sex crimes. They love them, right? They love them to friggin' fucking death. Let me tell you why. Ratings go up. Watch any sex crime on TV, they splash it, the ratings go through the roof because America loves this type of stuff. back to Charlie Manson. Charlie Manson, why this guy is still breathing air, we don't know, okay? We don't know. But the fact that he can come on TV 40 years after killing or ordering the killing of 7 people, 8 if you include the unborn child, right? And get ratings. This little clip, he comes out and goes, so he's getting married, but there's another little clip that says, after a long silence, Charlie Manson speaks about Obama. It's almost got 2 million hits on YouTube, right? Because America loves serial killers, it loves sex scandals, and, I read an article and talk about a double standard. The girl out in California who had sex with the little kid, she was an 8th grade teacher. She spends 1 year in jail. 1 year. She's sentenced to 2. She gets out early, right? And the family's upset about it, right? And even after she got caught, she goes back to see the kid again, right? Let's not forget that. But he terminates her sentence. No probation, no nothing. She just gets to walk out after like a year. Supposed to do 2, but a year, and gets, boom, she's out, If that had been a guy, he'd be doing 10 years probation, the psychosexual evaluations, and everything else. It's crazy. And just to throw one in, John Lennon's killer, this guy's still in prison in New York. We're still paying for this chump. Doesn't matter. Back to adolescence. So, I think it's very, very important that, because we've forgotten, legislators have forgotten, lawmakers, police people, parents, they have forgotten, or didn't even know exactly what happens to an adolescent and when it happens and what's going on in their head at that time. I found a very, very amazing clip from inside the human body. It's about a 5-minute clip. We're going to take 5 minutes. We're going to watch this clip so that there is no question, okay, about what's going on and why kids have sex, okay, and why the parents need to deal with this in a different way other than criminalizing sexual activity, much to the detriment of our young people for the rest of their lives. So we're going to take 5 minutes and take a look at this clip.
In its first decade, the human body changes beyond recognition. But now comes the biggest change of them all, the roller coaster ride of puberty. By age 11, puberty is already underway for most. But there's no schedule. For some, it happens later, some earlier. It depends on our DNA clocks, our lifestyles, even our diets. Whether 10 or 13, female or male, it begins in the brain for all of us. At the base, the hypothalamus, the same region that controls our body temperature. Puberty starts when the hypothalamus releases a protein, kisspeptin, into the brain. The kisspeptin triggers the release of other hormones in a chain reaction throughout the body. Only then do our sex organs begin to mature. In girls, that means ovulation. This is a high-definition view of a woman's ovaries, the off-white organs in the center. This unique footage from Gold Coast IVF Fertility Center in New York shows an actual egg inside a protective blister of fluid. During ovulation, an egg bursts from the ovary and travels down the fallopian tube to the uterus. From now until menopause, the same thing will happen every month. Then, menstruation clears the uterus of unfertilized eggs. The ovaries not only produce eggs, they also produce a potent cocktail of chemicals. They release hormones into the bloodstream, including estrogen. These hormones have dramatic, lasting emotional and physical effects. Both boys and girls experience a growth spurt. Women and men's body shapes diverge. Girls become women. Boys become men. Male brains also release kisspeptin to trigger puberty. A flood of new hormones stimulates the testicles to produce sperm. The testicles also generate a 10-fold surge in testosterone, the hormone that creates the physical characteristics of manhood. The larynx opens up and tilts forward. The vocal cords stretch wider. The longer chords vibrate at a lower pitch. The voice deepens. Testosterone stimulates the growth of body hair and doubles muscle mass, including 40% more heart muscle. These are changes we can see and hear, but changes are going on that we can't see. In the brain, nerve cells undergo extensive rewiring, transforming our mood and character. Both sexes experience a flood of new emotions, and one beats them all. For the first time, both sexes find the other sexually attractive. From the inside out, our bodies are overwhelmed by new sensations. Our pulse races. Our blood pressure rises. Our lips gorge. Our cheeks flush with blood. All signs that we desire someone. And if the desire turns out to be mutual, we hit another major milestone, our first kiss.
All right, very, very interesting clip. One of the things I want to bring out, it says by age 11, puberty is already underway. There's no schedule. It's up to your DNA clock. Some begin earlier, some begin later. I find that extremely interesting. At age 11, puberty is already underway, right? And in boys, when this kicks in, there's a 10-fold surge of testosterone. You imagine that? You know, you guys, do you remember when puberty kicked in for you? You were just, you know, crazy. I mean, you give a 10-year-old a sugar cookie and he goes off the walls, right? You always don't give him too much sugar. You know, imagine that 10-fold surge of testosterone. You know, it's perfectly clear that genetically the body is priming itself at this age. Sex organs and these type of things are beginning to develop. And there's a lot of things that are going on in adolescent's mind. So when you hit 18 and all these things are going on and your friends are 15, 16, years old, you know what? Inadvertently, you know, you're going to run into the intimate situations are just going to happen. They've been happening since the species has been on the planet. I'm not saying that it's right, but as parents, you need to safeguard against that, talk to your children and these type of things. But to criminalize this type of activity is to criminalize millions of years of evolution. I'm sorry, it's just the truth, you know. And I don't think any teenagers should be punished for the rest of their lives for having consensual sexual situations with other teenagers. That's just wrong. That's just wrong. All right, the next clip we're going to look at is, I think, extremely important. And I think it's very, very important how this plays out in a lot of people's lives today, in you know, anybody's lives, but especially people who are affected by the registry. Those folks out there who are unable to support themselves, who are let's take that. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I think this is extremely important. So let's watch the clip first, and then we'll talk about it.
Hi, I'm Holly Hancock, here today with About.com to give you an overview of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're probably wondering, who's Abraham Maslow? Well, Maslow was a researcher and a pioneer in the field of psychology in the 50s who was seeking to synthesize a large amount of information about research related to human motivation. Ultimately, the fruits of his research were that he presented a hierarchy of needs categorized by two groups: deficiency needs and growth needs. The important thing about the hierarchy is that it's built on a foundation of basic needs that must be met and satisfied before higher levels of the needs are met. So, let's take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the bottom of the pyramid for Maslow's hierarchy of needs are our physiological needs, those needs that are required for us to sustain life. Breathing, sleep, water, food, and even sex are important for us because we want to perpetuate the species. The next step up on the pyramid are safety needs. Needs are met when individuals feel safe and secure with no threat of physical or emotional harm. Those areas and safety concerns are going to be living in a safe area, medical insurance, job security, financial reserves. Difficult, I know, in this economy, but those things that are essential for us to survive. In the middle of Maslow's pyramid, we begin to see our emotional needs of love and belonging. Once a person has satisfied the physiological needs like sleep and breathing, and safety, living in a safe area and knowing that you are secure from threat or harm of danger, higher needs become more important. Our need for friends, our sense of belonging, and our ability to give and receive love. These are all emotional needs that need to be met as we continue through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Next, it becomes important as autonomous human beings to experience a sense of esteem, to feel good about ourselves. We want to feel like we're important, that we matter. Those things that make us feel important and that we do matter on this earth are self-respect, achievement, attention, recognition, and our reputation. Finally, the apex of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization. Self-actualization has been defined by self-help gurus and psychologists the world over. According to Maslow, self-actualization is the quest of reaching your full potential and being connected with the world. Some of those traits of being connected with the world and reaching self-actualization include truth, wisdom, justice, morality, and a lack of prejudice. Keep in mind, though, as you think about self-actualization, it's not an endpoint, it's not a destination, it's a journey, it's something we as humans are constantly trying to achieve. Finally, the benefits of understanding Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Well, if you are in a social and behavioral science field, a psychologist, a counselor, a social worker, it's important to know where your clients are on the pyramid. You must understand where your patients are before you are able to address, assess, or even work with psychological issues. It doesn't make a lot of sense to delve into a patient's negative childhood experiences when they're struggling to keep a roof over their head and maintain steady employment. Understanding Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a critical building block to understand other theories related to human growth and development. Thanks for watching. I'm Holly Hancock here with About.com. For more information, visit us online.
All right, a great presentation by Holly Hancock. And you know what? At the very, very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, breathing, sleep, water, food, sometimes even sex is involved in that. But the basic needs, breathing, food, water, sleep. These are the types of things that I believe that a lot of people who are subject to the registry. If you're denied the ability to work, okay, and you are cast out, you're homeless, these things are becoming a problem. Well, breathing, you can do that, a lot of air around. Sleep, you sleep where you can, right? But if you're stressing about, where your food is coming from, these type of things, and you can't really sleep, you don't get really sleep, so your basic needs aren't being met. So for those of you out there where, the basic needs are being met, okay, well, I got a little food, I got water. What about safety? And this is where I believe many people in the registry are at, is they don't feel safe. They're not secure in jobs, medical insurance, finances, all of these things. So most people are hovering at the lowest level, or tier 2, the lowest level of safety, right? I believe that's where most people are at. They can't pay their bills. They can't excel that way. And let me tell you something. To be a 44-year-old man and not be able to take care of himself. I've always worked all my life. I've always taken care of myself and been able to sustain myself. These things are very, very important to be able to do that, to meet one's financial responsibilities, as a man, and not take handouts from people or these type of things. It's very, very demeaning, which never gets you, okay, to the emotional state of having friends, a sense of belonging, or love. 90% of my time, 95% of my time, I'm alone. That's right. 95% of the time, I am absolutely alone. I have no human contact with anybody. I know. And, I look around. I don't have any friends, that I hang out with, or the sense of belonging. I spend time with my family sometimes. But that is gone. So because I'm stuck on safety. Actually, sometimes I'm down at physiological. Sometimes I don't know what I'm going to eat, right? So I'm hovering between the physiological, the basic things that you need to live, right, and safety, right? Those things are fluctuating. So I never get to the emotional stage. And esteem, look what's under esteem: self-respect, achievement, attention, recognition, reputation. You can't get that if you're plastered as a menace to society all over the internet. You can't get that if everybody appears that you are a threat to some kid. And why is everybody on the registry a threat to some kid? You realize that? It's always a threat to kids. It's never, some guys have legitimately raped adult people, but they're worried about them being, 200 feet from a daycare center. Makes no sense. But self-actualization, to attain the best you that you can be, is truth, wisdom, justice, morality, and a lack of prejudice. Well, the prejudice comes in because you're on this list and you can't get a job, you can't live anywhere, and you're being ostracized in the community. So prejudice is definitely in there, and there is no justice, wisdom, or truth, okay, involved in a lot of these cases, and which I believe most of these cases, because most of this is unjustified. The prejudice is unjustified because these people are not. Let me tell you something. If you were engaged in something when you're 18, 19 years old, something like that, consensual, and it's been 25 years and nothing has happened, then it's unjustified to say that you are a threat to public safety. You can't say that. Let me give you another analogy. A lot of kids wet the bed when they were a kid, 6, 7 years old, wet the bed. Maybe you're one of the bedwetters, right? And at some point you stop wetting the bed, right? Maybe it's 5, 6, I don't know, but you see what I'm saying. Is it safe to call a 35-year-old man who hasn't wet the bed for 25 years a bedwetter? Well, you're a bedwetter, Tom. No, I haven't wet the bed for 25 years. You can't call me that. You see what I'm saying? So the registry pretty much caps people at safety, if you can get there. Maybe some people have some people out there have been successful, have got some form of safety, or they're working a job, they're able to at least keep a roof over their head, and they have built some emotional ties, some friends, a feeling of belonging. Maybe they've gotten a girlfriend or something, a loved one, marriages, or were in marriages when their thing occurred, or whatever, right? But how do you get to esteem and self-actualization? How do you get to those things? Right? When everybody is concerned about something you did 10, 20, 25 years ago. Now, that's not everybody's situation, but I'm saying it's a lot of people's situation. And eventually those people who are subject to the registry today, 25 years from now, will be in the same boat. Right? Something interesting she says at the end. So all you guys who are in these psychosexual therapy classes, are you at the level of safety? Right? Has your therapist even discussed Maslow's hierarchy of needs while they're trying to have you relive and admit whatever it was, or blah, 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 yakety smackety? Have they asked, hey, can you pay the rent? Right? And another thing, you talk about monetizing this situation. If I could get, it would be great if I could get a group of guys, 15, 25 guys or whatever, to come sit twice a week for $25 a pop in a group and talk for an hour. That's quite a payday, ladies and gentlemen. That's quite a payday. Right? So, it's just something that you've got to think about. And I'm glad that she brought that up at the end of this broadcast. But think about where you are on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, here's where things get a little serious, as if they haven't already been. But as I said, my research has taken me down some really weird roads, and I've always believed that this is a facet of a much larger issue. And I've always been it started with JFK, actually, and I've always been a big JFK fan, and always kind of studied the assassination of JFK and that whole conspiracy thing and whatnot. And one of the things that was hard to wrap my mind around was how such a national tragic event could not or was not reported on, and the official documentation be accurate and correct. And no matter what you believed in the past, there's been so much information that says that what we got from the Warren Commission was fiction. And plain and simple. There's no way to put a pretty face on it. It was fiction. If you watch the movie JFK, that brings up just, even though it wasn't totally factually correct, whatnot, it brings up enough, questions to go, wait a minute, maybe they didn't give us the real story. And the fact is they didn't give us the real story. Our government, and hard for me to wrap my mind around, lied to us, back, many, many moons ago, when I first started that. So I began to look at other large events. Because JFK was a long time ago, and you move on, and life goes on, and that type of thing. But I began to look at Waco, Texas, and David Koresh, and what happened there. And there were several significant things. One, government didn't give us the real story about what happened in Waco, Texas. One of the most significant things is that you can't use military troops against civilians. And there was a military group there in sniper nests around the compound that were giving the orders in the final days of what went on there, right? And everybody was looking for this Delta Force, this Delta team. Well, they went by another name. They go by another name. That's why you can't find the Delta Force, because there is no Delta Force. They go by another name. But the fact is that they were there, and they were giving the orders that day, and you had military troops, helicopters and whatnot, attacking civilians. That's significant. Then I go to the first Twin Towers attack, and once again, the official story is not the story that actually happened. We find out later that the CIA and these agencies, FBI, whatnot, whoever, knew about what was going on, and they actually gave them the bomb that went off. The handler, the guy that they were handling, says, that was handling these terrorists, he says, okay, we're going to give him a fake bomb. He goes, no, we're going to give him a real bomb. So you kind of scratch your head and you go, well, but once again, the consistency is our government lied to us about what was really going on and what the purpose of these things that were going on. And then we moved to the Oklahoma City bombing. A lot of things that weren't correct there as I began to study that. And once again, the official story is not the real story. Why wasn't a certain agency, members of the certain agency in their office that day? But they showed up on the scene directly afterwards. Multiple explosions going off. The second man that everybody saw, the assailant with, that he just disappears. A lot of things, but the fact remains is the official story is not the official story that was, the real story is not the official story that was given to us. Which brings me to 9/11. And never just total blatant information from the government about 9/11. Two major things. Well, three major things. One, there was thermite at all the locations. The only thing you do with thermite is you demolish buildings. They're using demolitions to blow up buildings. Second, most people don't realize, or a lot of people don't realize, that 3 buildings went down that day. The Twin Towers and Building 7. And what makes Building 7 so significant? It had fires on like 2 floors, 3 floors at the most. And they couldn't explain why it went down. But if you look at the footage, it goes down in a classic demolition style. The 9/11 Commission chose not to even mention Building 7. You know why? Because they couldn't explain it. They can't explain Building 7. Because there's no reason for Building 7 to go down. It wasn't hit by a plane, anything. They couldn't explain it. You got thermite laying around everywhere, and you got a building that went down that wasn't supposed to go down that they can't explain. So the 9/11 Commission chose not to even mention it. And if you doubt that the government lied to us, just listen to Susan Lindauer. Okay, the link is at the bottom of the page. You watch her. She was a CIA agent, and she blew the whistle. And because she blew the whistle, saying that the government knew all about 9/11, knew what was going to happen, whatnot, they prosecuted her under the Patriot Act. And you do yourself a service by watching her lecture on the events that occurred and her incarceration. She waited 10 years to tell the story. She had to wait 10 years because she was under the Patriot Act for like 7 years because she told the truth, that the official story was not real. So, what does this have to do with the registry? Well, that takes me to Naomi Wolf. Now, Naomi Wolf did a book and a lecture in 2008, I believe it was, 2007, talking about the closing, what you see when a society is closing down. And that's what I see going on in America right now. She updated that in 2014 with a lecture in New Hampshire. Both of those links are underneath. I suggest that you take some time and listen to them because they concern you. One of the major things she talks about as she juxtaposes different closing societies with what's going on in America right now, okay, as she juxtaposes them. In all society, lists were created of undesirable people or just lists in general that kept people in line. And when they wanted around those people, it was very, very easy because they knew exactly where to go get them, right? She also expresses that she herself, as many other journalists and people who shouldn't be there, are on the terrorist list. There are 1 million people on the terrorist list, something like that in America. It only takes the president to go, I think that guy's a terrorist. And he can put your name on the list and you're on the list if you're not a citizen of the United States. But there are 1 million people. There are not a million people that are terrorists in the United States. That's just impossible. That's just 100% impossible. There's not a million terrorists here. This is infathomable. But when she talks about the list, when she flies, and she's got some interviews of other people who have spoken out, that now when they fly, they get, and a nice guy told her, she didn't know why, she was always being flagged, pulled aside, and he looked at her ticket and said, see right here, there's these 3 S's, that means you're on the list. And we pull you out every time. And the thing about the registry, it's one big negative list. And if you take places like Jacksonville, Florida, because it's a small leap, and this is what you've got to understand, that it's a small leap from public safety to national security. And it's a very small jump from public safety to national security. And with these other events that I've talked about, they were all used, right, to put forth legislation to further strip away the rights of Americans, to further strip away our freedoms. And this woman was prosecuted under their own CIA agent for telling the truth. They prosecuted her under this act. That's why her story is so significant of what happened to her being a CIA agent, an insider. They didn't like what she said. She didn't play the game. She didn't roll over. So they used the very, very act that 9/11 was pushed forward, Patriot Act, to prosecute her. And you got to listen to her story. Now, once again, how does this relate to you? Well, most cities do not have a protocol for national disasters. So if there's a national disaster, you take Jacksonville, Florida. Let's say there's a national disaster there, right? And everybody has to be put into, one of their sports arenas or something to house everybody, whatnot, while maybe a major hurricane has gone on, right? Well, guess what? As a registrant, you're not allowed in there. You can't go in there for what? Public safety. Well, guess what? At that point, it's easy to leap to, they're a threat against national security, because now you got a national disaster or a statewide disaster going on. The city's in turmoil, whatnot, and all the resources are down, whatnot. But yet we have registrants running around free because they're not allowed in the safety centers with everybody else. It's easy to say that they're a threat to national security, and they come round you up. But when society, as it continues to close down, if you listen to Naomi Wolf, okay, as it continues to close down, when she talks about how easily these bottom hanging fruits were so easy to put into camps and to be taken away, okay, because it's a small jump from national security or from public safety to now this violates national security. There are situations, and that's the fearful thing, and that's the thing that you really need to worry about. And that brings us to Edward Snowden. A lot of people are upset at Edward for what he did, and I think he did a great job, okay? I think he did a great job in what he did, because it's not that, it's weird. You point a finger at a guy, we're doing some illegal stuff over here, but you know what, you're a terrorist or whatever because you told everybody about it. Does that even make sense? Okay, as a government agency, we're upset with you and we want to prosecute you and we want you to put you in jail because we were doing illegal activities and you told the American people about it, right? But there are 2 excellent PBS documentaries on exactly what happened. Do yourself a favor. The links are at the bottom of the site. Go look at them and what it means to you about the amount of data that they are looking at and sifting through on the internet. Because you think about someone born today, okay? Or take somebody of the age of, maybe 10 years old, 15 years old. Their entire lives and every move they make from here on out will be documented on Facebook, Google, or whatever. So instead of them being a person now, you can pull up their entire history, if you save it, from the cradle to the grave on the internet. Their likes, dislikes, pictures, you can see them go to college, the whole freaking 9 yards. You are going to become a data snippet rather than a real person. And guess what? Your data snippet says that you're an undesirable person to society and should be treated thusly. Let me say that again. In this new era, okay, of spying entire lives, and if you just started, maybe just half your life. But if you're 18 now, right, and you find yourself wrapped up in the registry and whatnot, everything you do from here on out is now being recorded, from Google to the government and everybody else, right? But the only thing they're really going to care about is that you're on the registry, okay? And at some point, I believe, it's my prediction, that an event will occur that will allow them to make the leap from public safety to national security, and those will be the first that will be rounded up and placed into camps. There'll be others, but those will be the first thereabouts. Thank you for listening to the broadcast today. I know it's been lengthy, about 30 minutes or so. If you lasted this long, please go to the top of the website, hit the donate button. This is maybe more a cry for help than it is a broadcast for newsworthy information. Though the information, I believe, is newsworthy. But, yeah, on it's getting rough out here. So, please donate. I really could use your help to make ends meet. I'm down to 1 meal a day. But the information, regardless, is still valid. Look at Susan Lindauer. Look at what Naomi Wolf has to say. And if you look at those broadcasts, it will become painfully apparent what's going on in a very, very larger sense, and how the registration facet fits in to that. You're on a list, a blacklist. Who are they going to come for first? And it's happening now. Thank you. My name is Donavon Lace, Registration X. Please, again, use the donate button. If everybody gives $1, I can make it another month. Thank you.